Today's topic is what is etiquette? And the first thing we're going to talk about is not putting your elbows on the table while you're eating.
Yes, and we're very interested. Do implement this at your table, wherever you're at, and in your home. Sometimes it's more difficult than you think.
We just started, I think, probably a couple of weeks ago, really consciously making the effort not to have our elbows on the table while we're eating, because when we were researching it, it says when food is present. So there's times when we're not eating, we'll have our elbows on the table. It's not as common, I feel like, now that we've done it while eating, but we do have that exception. But when you're eating a meal, you realize how easy it is to lean forward and you just, even one elbow, and I'll find myself like, okay, don't do
Or even
that.
part of your arm.
Yeah.
You'll be like, and we remind each other. We do. It is, but you also realize it's not really good for your posture.
Well, and when we were researching it, it said one of the main reasons like people started doing it was because of the posture change. I mean, back in the day, you had your proper posture, whatever you would call it, and then people just started kind of slumping more, slouching, and so as part of like we've just adopted it as a society. Basically,
people sit at the table with their phones.
Right.
Leaned over.
Well, and like if you were sitting at a table and like reading a book or something, again, it's supposed to be when food isn't present, but then you kind of like, if you do it when you're like reading or something, it's not improper necessarily, but then it can really be easy to like do that while you're eating too.
Just pay attention to your posture. You feel a lot better once it helps you to start sitting up more straight, which is actually better for your digestion too. Because then we're not hunched over, and it's really not good for our rib cage to be pushing into our abdominal organs. So
yeah, so that's a little bit of homework, if you want to call it that.
Yes.
Is see if you do that or if your family does it, and then report back in the comments or in the community chat, because we want to know, because this is something we're actively working on. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the stairs rule. And again, this is all stuff that we're researching, because some of it we know, some of it we didn't know the exact specifics, but the stairs rule, we found out that for when you go up the stairs, women are supposed to go first, gentlemen are supposed to be behind so that hypothetically they could catch her, and when you descend the stairs, the men are supposed to go first and the women are supposed to go second, because then again, hypothetically, the men could catch the ladies. And so that's a kind of an interesting one that I've heard of it maybe, but like it's not as common. And so again, I think it's kind of just like observing it in your life, and then if you implement it in, like being more aware of it,
and just pay attention. You wonder how many stairs we go up and down these days. It's interesting, but it is, and even pay attention to around you. And I think something we'd also encourage, try to implement it, depending upon if you have a family, your situation of where you're living, but definitely give it a try.
I just think it's kind of a fun, interesting one. And like I said, I feel like it's kind of like when you see a white car, then you see a bunch of white cars. I feel like if you would start noticing and observing these things, you'll see it where either people practicing it that way or not doing it that way. And then if you start doing it, who knows, someone else might notice.
And encourage someone else.
Right. And so I think that's a fun one, actually.
It is.
And the next one is saying please and thank you, which, I mean, I was raised that we're supposed to say please and thank you. Not always saying that I'm always the best or perfect at it, because I don't think necessarily anyone is. But I think it's also become lost in today's world of like, give me this, or I need this, or will you just give me this? And like, it's not, will you please give me this, or thank you for that. And so
yes, and it's really not that hard, and once you start doing it, you actually feel better about yourself.
Well, and then the person you're talking to is going to feel respected, and appreciated more. So it's kind of a win-win. You're going to feel better about yourself because you know you were being respectful, and they're going to feel better about themselves because...
And I would encourage this in any, not just when you're speaking, but when you're writing, even text messages or emails or any kind of communication. Implement it in every area of your life. And do, anyone that has children, please do teach them this. It's very important. And they will feel better about themselves, and they'll actually receive that kindness in return.
Yes.
Like you said.
Yeah. Okay, another one that's kind of fun, and I do want to hear about if you guys practice this or if it's something you're aware of, but we've been taught that you're supposed to wait. So let's say you're at a restaurant and you're getting your food served. You're supposed to wait to start eating until the people on either side of you have their food. And I think this is another interesting one because it might not be as like commonly thought about. It's etiquette. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but like it's not as commonly thought about. So I think it would be interesting to hear from you, but that's something that when we're sitting there, and if mom's on my one side and my brother's on my other side, once they've received their food, then I can start eating. And so that one I think is just...
We've implemented that for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's just the manners, and it doesn't matter how many people around have their food. There may be one to the right or the left of you that does not. And people say, what's the big deal? It's out of respect. Can we wait just a little bit longer? We may be hungry, we may be this and that. But honestly, it's just, hey, I'm thinking about you. I care.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I feel like if there's some kind of problem where you're waiting for your food and there's a problem with your food, then
we start sharing food.
You start sharing food. But that can kind of be like decided upon for a specific situation, because that's not like, that's more of the exception, not the rule. And so, yeah, I think that's another one just to observe and to share with us if that's something that you practiced or if that's a new one to you. The next thing is ladies first, which I feel like in today's society is still a thing. It hasn't disappeared in all areas, but because of the so-called equality, it's been changed. I mean, kind of like we were talking about, that there have been standards that have been intentionally changed. That is one that has been intentionally changed, and we're here to say that it should be brought back around.
Yes, the cultural norms, the society, we definitely agree that this should come back around.
Right, and I think that it's also the matter of you have to, if it's something you didn't grow up with the men or the boys or whatever it would be, your children
Any
or
gentleman you have in your life,
brothers or whatever it would be, if that's not something they were taught, then they can't necessarily be expected to know it until they are taught it. And so it's never too late to learn this. No. And that's what we're trying to say is like you can start implementing these things into your life now and into the lives of your family members, your children, whoever it would be. But like a example is we were at Chick-fil-A one time and we were walking out the door and there was a guy, I think there was two of them, and I was holding the door. Neither of them even said thank you. Like, I held the door for them. They walked off, and they were probably, I want to say in their 50s, so it wasn't like they were like, I'm not saying you can't be immature at any age, but I mean, they probably would have known, the etiquette, right? They didn't even say thank you. Another guy who was probably in his 20s, I want to say, came out behind them. He had his hands completely full. Could he have probably leaned up against the door? Yes. I was already outside, so I was already out. He at least said thank you, like he acknowledged that I did it. That's an exception of like, he had his hands full, he was walking out. He at least said thank you. But the rule should be that the men hold the door open. And I seen a video of this the other day of this teacher that was teaching the kids. I mean, they were probably 4 or 5-year-olds, how the boys are supposed to hold the doors open for girls. And I think that's just something that we can kind of just start implementing again.
Yes, and I would say that can be car doors, that can be doors going into places, or just a matter of you're out somewhere and letting them walk first to go through an aisle or anything. it's out of respect, and you know, raising once again your children, your sons, to be this way. I know we can tread a very fine line with family members and that kind of stuff. Yet, if we can nicely, you kind of have to. Depends on the situation and who it is. But I think we can definitely spread the word on this.
I think it's a matter of raising awareness.
Yes. Yes.
And then it kind of just will naturally, I mean, not that you don't have to take action to make it happen, but I think it kind of just will,
you know, like it's contagious, or the domino effect.
Right.
You know, and oh, did you see that they opened the door for that person? Maybe you should, you know, and people know, people will see it and they'll be like, wow, that's really nice. And so, yeah, we really do encourage you to do that.
So I think a few of the takeaways from this video are to share with us in the comments or in the chat, whether you put your elbows on the table while you're eating, and if you start noticing that you do, and if you start kind of trying not to, or taking action of being more aware of it. And the stairs rule, again, that's kind of an observance thing of like, if that's something that you have noticed or you practice. Saying please and thank you, which really should be one of the easiest ones to implement in your life if you don't already. The one about waiting to eat until the two people on the either side of you, more specifically at a restaurant, because you're at home, you know, you're passing the food, whatever. Until they have their food on either side of you, you don't start eating. And then the ladies first with opening car doors or holding open the doors or whatever it would be. So
yeah, and let us know. We're interested. We'd like to get some conversation going. And if you find any awkward situations, or you want suggestions from anyone in the community, do post something, because that's the idea, is we're supposed to be able to help each other.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again.
We appreciate you being here, and we are thankful for you, and take care.